For if the United States should perish, the ruthlessness of the foe would only be the secondary cause of the disaster. These are some of the concluding words of possibly the most important book ever written on U.S. foreign policy, The Irony of American History by Reynold Niebuhr. In 1952, Reynold Niebuhr warned that our dreams of managing history, dreams born of a peculiar combination of arrogance, hypocrisy, and self-delusion, posed a large, potentially mortal threat to our nation. Today, we ignore that warning at our peril. Niebuhr was a towering figure in American political philosophy. He was a Christian realist, a staunch anti-communist, and a socialist. He has been cited by politicians as diverse as Hillary Clinton and John McCain. His writing has pinpointed the moral hinges upon which American foreign policy has turned for over 70 years. It has stood the test of time, from the end of World War II, to the Cold War, to the wars in the Middle East, to today, as America faces down China and shepherds in artificial intelligence. Niebuhr's core warning wasn't just about nuclear weapons or the Cold War. It was about the American tendency to believe that our virtue, our prosperity, and our technology could grant us mastery over history itself. That illusion, he argued, blinds us to our limits and tempts us into strategies that unravel the very values we claim to defend. This is the irony that we will be tracing throughout this video. Niebuhr showed us how nations, in pursuing security and progress, can stumble into their own undoing. As America faces a new age of competition with China over artificial intelligence, his warning has never been more urgent. The real question is if the AI age will become just another chapter in America's tragic irony. Part 1. The ironic element in the American situation. Reynold Niebuhr defines irony as unknowingly creating greater bad in the pursuit of good. Opening the book, Reynold Niebuhr writes, speaking of communism, everybody understands the obvious meaning of the world struggle in which we are engaged. We also have some awareness of an element of tragedy in this struggle, which does not fit into the obvious pattern. Could there be a clearer tragic dilemma than that which faces our civilization? Though confident of its virtue, it must yet hold atomic bombs ready for use so as to prevent a possible world conflagration. It may actually make the conflict more inevitable by this threat, and yet it cannot abandon the threat. Niebuhr's paradox in the atomic age was simple. The very weapons built to keep the peace could just as easily make war inevitable. Today, we see the same irony in the race for artificial intelligence. By trying to secure an edge, both nations may be driving each other into reckless competition. Then and now, building tools to ensure security can just as well set the stage for ruin. Furthermore, Niebuhr warns us that even if these tools do prevent defeat, the victory may come at the cost of our moral and cultural survival. If the conflict should break out, the non-communist world would be in danger of destroying itself as a moral culture in the process of defending itself physically. For no one can be sure that a war won by the use of these modern means of mass destruction would leave enough physical and social substance to rebuild a civilization among either the victors or the vanquished. Our age is involved in irony because so many dreams of our nation have been so cruelly refuted by history. Our dreams of a pure virtue are dissolved in a situation in which it is possible to exercise the virtue of responsibility toward a community of nations only by courting the prospective guilt of the atomic bomb. And the irony is increased by the frantic efforts of some of our idealists to escape this hard reality, by dreaming up schemes of an ideal world order which have no relevance to either our present dangers or our urgent duties. Niebuhr warned that the dream of managing history through utopian schemes was one of America's greatest dangers. We see the same pattern in AI today. Leaders talk about global rules, but efforts remain fragmented and mostly symbolic. And regulation itself faces a classic paradox. Too early and it's blind, too late and it's powerless. We Americans have had many times that great hope that our relentless pursuit of technological progress will bring about the ideals of freedom and liberty which we espouse. And yet the irony is that our society has been gravely damaged by the social media age. This is analogous to the technical progress Niebuhr speaks of, which brought the bomb, the end of World War II, and the consequences of the Cold War, for which we paid dearly. Perhaps we too are in another example of Niebuhrian irony. We are unknowingly creating bad in the pursuit of a greater good. Part 2. Prosperity and Virtue. The prosperity of America is legendary. Our standards of living are beyond the dreams of avarice of most of the world. We are a kind of paradise of domestic security and wealth. But we face the ironic situation that the same technical efficiency which provided our comforts has also placed us at the center of the tragic developments in world events. Niebuhr was writing in the 1950s, but we can think now of globalization and the resulting loss of American jobs. Niebuhr saw how comfort could entangle a nation in global tragedy. What would he say today about the economic shocks and technological leaps of our own time? AI is boosting the stock market to glorious highs, but it's also potentially precipitating disastrous social outcomes at home, and perhaps an arms race internationally. Niebuhr saw this tension long before us. He wrote that prosperity itself carries contradictions that no society can escape. There are evidently limits to the achievements of science, and there are irresolvable contradictions both between prosperity and virtue, and between happiness and the good life, which had not been anticipated by our philosophy. The discovery of these contradictions threatens our culture with despair. This rings true today. We make life so easy, and social media so addicting, and yet we see cracks in virtue and a crash in fulfillment. The irony of America's quest for happiness lies in the fact that she succeeded more obviously than any other nation in making life comfortable, only finally to run into larger incongruities of human destiny by the same achievements by which it escaped the smaller ones. Our difficulty as a nation is that we must now learn that prosperity is not simply coordinated with virtue, that virtue is not simply coordinated to historic destiny, and that happiness is no simple possibility of human existence. Niebuhr saw that prosperity can weaken virtue, and that comfort can corrode character. In our time, AI may deliver dazzling wealth, but the irony is that the very tools we are building to secure happiness may further degrade what is left of our virtue and unravel our society. Part 3. The American Future. Niebuhr's warnings grow more urgent. He reminds us that no matter how powerful our tools, historic forces are larger than what we can ever hope to master. For him, the illusion that technology can bend destiny is the most dangerous illusion of all. The American situation is such a vivid symbol of the spiritual perplexities of modern man, because the degree of American power tends to generate illusions to which a technocratic culture is already too prone. This technocratic approach to problems of history, which erroneously equates the mastery of nature with the mastery of historical destiny, in turn accentuates a very old failing in human nature, the inclination of the wise or the powerful or the virtuous to obscure and deny the human limitations in all human achievements and pretensions. This is where Niebuhr feels most relevant to us. In today's US-China rivalry, we put enormous faith in technology to carry the burden of history. We talk about AI as if faster deployment, bigger models, or sheer technical might will secure our future. But isn't this the very illusion that Niebuhr warned about? The belief that machines can bend destiny if only we race hard enough? Niebuhr points out two temptations: the overconfidence of trying to make others in our own image, and the retreat of keeping only to ourselves. He says both are misguided. For egotism is not the proper cure for an abstract and pretentious idealism. Since the lives and interests of other men and communities always impinge upon our own, a preoccupation with our own interests must lead to an illegitimate indifference towards the interest of others, even when modesty prompts the preoccupation. Here, Niebuhr reminds us that we are not as much of an island as we might hope. Isolating and ignoring others might be a natural correction after a long period of misguided idealism, but we are simply too reliant on the global community to pull all the way back. For example, we want to onshore ships, but the highest purity chemicals are only available in Taiwan. Niebuhr continues. The cure for our pretentious idealism, which claims to know more about the future and about other men than is given mortal man to know, is not egotism. It is a concern for both the self and the other, in which the self, whether individual or collective, preserves a decent respect for the opinions of mankind, derived from a modest awareness of the limits of his own knowledge and power. Part 4. The significance of the irony. Up to now, Niebuhr has shown us the dangers of weapons, of wealth, and of technocratic illusions. But his final lesson goes deeper. He asks us to step back and see history itself and our place in it with a sense of awe. Niebuhr concludes, again speaking of the American relationship against the Soviet Union. There is, in short, even in a conflict with a foe with whom we have little in common, the possibility and necessity of living in a dimension of meaning in which the urgencies of the struggle are subordinated to a sense of awe before the vastness of the historical drama in which we are jointly involved. That awe matters today. Many believe that AI could transform or even endanger civilization within our lifetimes. But Niebuhr would remind us that even in the face of technologies that feel world-ending, the deeper danger is how nations blind themselves with arrogance, mistaking tools for destiny. He urges us towards modesty about what we know, contrition for the failings we share with our adversaries, and gratitude for the mercies given to those who resist vanity. And then he leaves us with his starkest warning, words that still define the American dilemma in the AI age. For if we should perish, the ruthlessness of our foe would only be the secondary cause of the disaster. The primary cause would be that the strength of a giant nation was directed by eyes too blind to see all the hazards of the struggle. And the blindness would be induced not by some accident of nature or history, but by hatred and vainglory.